So, if you're a basketball fan or just even a casual basketball fan, you've probably seen the video TMZ just released of Draymond Green just knocking out Jordan Poole that was released yesterday. I'll give you a quick summary of what actually happened if you didn't see the video, and then I'm just going to go into my thoughts about this whole entire situation now with this video development. So, basically, what happened was Draymond Green, if you watch the video, is probably somewhere like 10 to 20 feet away from Jordan Poole. They're on different ends of the court. Draymond is saying something to him from a distance. You can see Jordan Poole trying not to really look at him, trying to look away. So I get the vibe just from the beginning. Jordan Poole doesn't really want to have a confrontation with Draymond Green. He's just trying to remain calm, trying to remain somewhat chill. That's the vibe I get. Draymond Green then just calmly starts walking towards him. So you kind of know something bad's going to happen. He has this look on his face that kind of looks deranged to some degree. He walks up into Jordan Poole's personal space and just bumps his chest with Jordan Poole's chest. Jordan Poole shoves him and then just Draymond Green lunges at him and punches him. So basically what happened was Draymond got up in his face, their chests connect and then Jordan shoves him and Draymond just lunges and punches into him. That punch he did is like a punch Mike Tyson would have been proud of. It looked like a Mike Tyson knockout punch or a Balrog punch. For those of you who don't know, Balrog was out of the video game Street Fighter 2. So that's what it made me think of. It was pretty ridiculous. So I haven't really seen a hard knockout punch like that ever in basketball. I've been watching the NBA for close to 30 years now, to be honest. I'm in my late 30s, so that gives you an idea of how old I am. So I've never really seen a punch that hard before. The closest thing I would say is Jermaine O'Neal's punch during the '04 brawl of that fan randomly just knocking him out. So that was pretty embarrassing for Jordan Poole, I would say, just to get knocked out like that. That's one thing I would say about this situation. But I'm going to definitely say this is all Draymond's fault. This is 100% his fault. I don't care what Jordan Poole said to Draymond. I don't care if Jordan Poole said he slept with Draymond's wife, his girl, I just don't care, to be honest, just because the reason why I feel this way, especially when it comes to this trash talking shit, Draymond Green has no moral compass when it comes to trash talking. He's willing to say some of the nastiest things out there. I've heard stories where he's made fun of players' wives, girlfriends, daughters, just he goes after it. He has no moral compass. And when you don't have a moral compass and you're willing to aim low, well, you got to expect there's going to be somebody who's going to do the same to you. It's just how this game goes. That's why I've never been into trash talking. I just believe that if you're going to trash talk, you better be prepared for people to say nasty things back to you. Hell, it could still happen if you don't run your mouth. But if you run your mouth, you can't be upset about it, people saying shit back to you. So I don't care if his feelings were hurt. Draymond brings this shit on himself. We got to be honest about that. So when it comes to just what Jordan Poole said, I don't care. I personally don't care. And the other way it's not his fault is that people are going to justify, like, well, he shoved him. He did have to shove Draymond, and then Draymond had the right to knock him out. I'm like, no, he didn't. That's a bunch of horse shit. Just the thing is, Draymond violated the first thing, which was you don't get up in a man's personal space. You just don't do that. If you have a problem with another man, you keep your distance by at least a foot away. You're not going to walk up into him like you can fucking kiss him. I just think people don't know that decorum these days. You keep a distance about like a foot away and you just talk to him or you say what you got to say. You don't do that. Draymond is a grown man. He knows better. I don't care he got shoved. That shove is nothing. If Draymond was offended by a shove, he could have shoved him back. My brother and I, we jokingly reenacted that thing when my younger brother shoving me hard. It didn't do nothing. Shoves don't do shit to people. Let's be honest. Unless you're shoved from the back, then it can really hurt you because you're not prepared for that. But from the front, no. Draymond had to know that was going to happen. I just don't buy into that shit. Also, one thing I'll say is I talked to a colleague who played Division I basketball. He played high school basketball. This colleague of mine, he grew up poor. He grew up in the projects in Washington, D.C., and he straight up told me that there's just a different code when you're actually playing on a team versus when you're playing on the streets. Now, if you're in the streets and something like this happens with Draymond coming up in your face, you got to be prepared to fight and throw down. But he was also telling me it's different when he plays, organized sports when you're actually on a team in high school and especially college. He was telling me that he had confrontations with his own teammates in college. He got up in their faces, they got up to his faces, and they would shove each other. But he said that there was this kind of unwritten code where he said none of them ever thought they were going to punch each other, that you had some trust in your teammate that he wasn't going to punch you. And he said that if he was in Jordan Poole's situation, he actually would have believed that Draymond was not going to hit him, because that's just something that's ingrained in your head when you're playing college sports, especially that you trust your teammate. Even when you have confrontations, you yell at each other, you say stuff, but you never throw actual hands. So I think that might have gone in Jordan Poole's head, and that's why he didn't initially square up to defend himself. He thought this was just going to be a normal conversation or a confrontation where they just yell and curse at each other. So I do think Draymond did a sucker move. I do definitely believe that. It was a dirty move. He was just pissed off, and obviously I talked about in my other video why he might do it. So the other thing I want to bring up is we should wonder, why didn't the players even try to separate them? Why didn't no one try to grab Draymond and Poole before they could just even get to that? That to me is interesting. Just, you didn't see anyone trying to do anything until Jordan Poole got punched. That's when they tried to do something to stop it, but by then it was too late. So what type of team is that? Just when they can't even stop something like this from occurring. That I don't know if Steve Kerr told them to do nothing, but it just looks bad on everyone involved, and just especially Steve Kerr. Like, this guy, like always, is a weak person. He has no control over his team, and it just looks bad on Steph Curry's part. He was just standing way in the background while this was going down. Like, how can you not know Draymond's gonna do something stupid? You played with this man for like over a decade, and you couldn't figure out he was gonna do something crazy. Hell, like, I've known when fights were going to go down the court when I was with my friends, and I was able to stop it before it went down because I could just sense what was going to go down. I could sense the body language, I could sense the tone, and I was immediately able to de-escalate the situation from getting out of control. Just, that's where Curry's strength is. He could have de-escalated. He could have immediately ran up there and got in between Draymond and Jordan Poole. There's definitely no way Draymond's swinging if Curry's right in front of his face. Not because Curry's tough, but he knows Curry is just I'm trying to say symbol of the Warriors. Basically, he can't touch Curry. He knows his career is over. And plus, Curry and him have that professional relationship where they've always helped each other out. So I just don't see him doing that in this situation. So again, Curry failed. He failed in leadership in that aspect of it. So that's definitely showing again Curry's not really a true leader in my eyes. This guy is a weak-willed guy. I definitely have to say that. And I also want to say the media is trying to normalize this, but this shit is not normal. I just watched a clip of Pat McAfee and AJ Hawk, and they're both NFL players, and they were saying from their own experience that, this stuff like this didn't even happen in the locker rooms they were in, and they were in the NFL for a while. So they were saying players got into it, they shoved each other, but it was never something on this level. Granted, that's just two guys, but that's just show you this is just kind of an abnormal situation. It is an abnormal situation. I've heard Evan Fournier on Twitter say this is abnormal, that he's never seen something like this in the NBA, and I believe he's been in the league 10 years, so he's been around. He's for a while, so I definitely don't think this is normalized like the media is trying to make it out to be. It's just them trying to defend Draymond because of his connections with them. To me, I think it's stupid. We've seen a few indications of this today where they're screaming like, well, Jordan punched Kerr. I'm like, who cares? That shit was wrong back then. It wasn't right. Jordan is a psychopath to a large degree. He has some demented issues about him. There's nothing right about just punching your teammate or acting crazy like that, if we're being honest. But, Jordan is the GOAT, so I guess he was able to get away with it. Obviously he did, but who knows? If they had video back then, he probably would have been suspended, and I would say rightfully so. This is like complaining to a cop that, hey, you should have pulled me over for speeding because the other guy got away with it, but you pulled me over. Bottom line is Draymond got caught. He got caught. It's just the same thing when you cheat on your wife or your girlfriend. Sometimes you can get away with it, and sometimes you can't. That's just part of the game, and Draymond got caught. He got sold out by somebody on the Warriors. I'm not going to say unfortunately, since she's a rotten person, but when you do rotten things, this is what happens to you. You always risk getting in trouble, and Draymond was dumb enough to put himself in that situation. He brought it on himself. That's one thing I'll say about that. So I definitely have no empathy for that, and they shouldn't justify it that way. Also, you have the media screaming like, well, what about Bobby Portis? He did the same thing. He broke Merich's face and he did this. But the situation with Bobby Portis was, and it's been documented, Meritage charged into him. He attacked him first. So you can't compare the situation. It wasn't Meritage was not some guy who just got sucker punched. So I just think it's a different situation, and people need to stop trying to justify this crap. This is not something that should be normalized at all. It's disgusting behavior. It's middle school behavior, to be honest. They're grown men. They should be some professionalism. I don't care what people are saying that, hey, this is not a regular workplace. It's still a workplace environment. The NBA is still a corporate environment with their endorsements and brand making and doing all that other crap. So I just don't buy into that garbage. I was also gonna just bring up just this is also a reflection of just Kerr and the Warriors and just their ownership trying to cover up Draymond's tracks like always. They have always covered up his bad behavior or tried to minimize what he's done. I've heard alleged rumors in the past of him attacking teammates, hitting them. I think there was this one rumor many years ago where he squared up with Andre Iguodala and just hit him or threatened him. So he's done bad things before, but they've always covered it up. And you have to wonder why they're doing it. I believe why they cover up Draymond's horrible stuff, his toxic behavior, all the crap he does, is because he gives them an edge in the sense that he's able to get away with dirty plays on the court. He's always been able to be a goon on the basketball court. There's even this one clip someone posted, I think it may have been last season, where this guy just ran into a player like a football player, and the refs didn't even call the foul. He rushed him into the ground. So they know Draymond gets special treatment. They know he can play dirty, and he's allowed to get away with hacking guys, mugging guys, and it benefits them. That's the biggest asset he brings to their team, and it pays dividends during playoffs. It's big during playoffs. Look what he did to the Celtics mentally with his dirty plays and his ability to get away with fouling and hitting guys and just smacking them, upside the head. So he's been able to get away with so much dirt that it gives the Warriors a huge edge. It's kind of like having the equivalent of being an all-star with the amount of dirtiness he can get away with. Even though he's not a legit all-star in my eyes, he's a role player. Only 1 year in his career was he a legit all-star. It was 2016. So that's why they put up with his crap, because they need his dirty play to have an edge. Without his dirty play, I think it makes the Warriors much more easier to beat. He also protects Kerr. I mean, not Kerr, but Curry and Klay Thompson. Both are soft. They're not strong guys. They're not guys who can take physical or rough play. So he kind of helps them deal with that stuff with his dirtiness. It limits how much teams can be physical with them, because Draymond's always going to retaliate for them. He's their personal goon. It's why they always have his back, because they're soft individuals. So that's why it's kind of like a symbiotic relationship. He gives them protection and they give him credibility, because one can't function without the other. And that's why I believe Curry and Klay will always have his back, even in this situation with Jordan Poole, because again, Jordan Poole cannot provide them with protection the way Draymond can. It's a dirty thing that they have going on there. And it's also why the Warriors management and ownership love him, because they know what his dirtiness brings for their team. It gives them a competitive advantage. I would also say one thing about Steve Kerr. He loves Draymond's dirty play. He might say he doesn't like it, but he loves it behind closed doors. I remember when Steve Kerr was a commentator many years ago during a game on TNT, I believe it was. I forgot who was playing, but I still remember him commentating about a certain player who was playing dirty throughout the game, who was being an instigator and agitator, and he was just gushing about this player. It's like, oh, I like what he does. I love how he instigates, and he's the agitator. You need that on team. It gives your team an advantage. You want that. You really want to have that. So he was enthralled with that. So I definitely believe he loves Draymond Green's dirtiness. I also feel that this has roots in Kerr's time with the Chicago Bulls in the late 90s when it came to Dennis Rodman. Rodman, I'm going to say, was a great defensive player. Unlike Draymond, he was a legit defensive player, great rebounder, but he was straight up dirty. He would do a lot of cheap shots, and he got away with a lot of stuff, just like Draymond did too, due to playing with the Chicago Bulls. He was able to just go above and beyond with his dirty play. And I think Kerr saw how that gave the Bulls a huge advantage in in winning championships for sure. I don't think the Bulls could have won without Rodman. Granted, Michael Jordan's the GOAT in my eyes, but they needed Rodman for that second three-peat. He was a very important piece of their team. Without him, they wouldn't have won. I think Kerr saw that. Granted, Kerr played with the Spurs, but I don't think he really modeled the Warriors culture after the Spurs as much as he tries to say that. I think it's more modeled after the Bulls with what they had with Rodman and just the mind games he plays with the media, like what he did last year during the playoffs when he said, I forget the name of that player who took out Gary Payton too last year. I think it was Dylan Brooks when he said Dylan Brooks broke the code and all this other garbage, knowing what a hypocrite he is. So I definitely think Kerr loves the dirtiness Draymond brings to the Warriors, but at the same time, I do see him get tired of his toxic behavior, but he knows he has to deal with it because they need his dirty play to give them an advantage. So they're down with Draymond with his dirtiness. Also, the thing I find funny about the Warriors now is that they're not really upset at Draymond for knocking out Jordan Poole. They're just upset at the camera guy for leaking out this video. The Warriors are trying to allegedly find out who was the camera guy that leaked the video. They're pissed off because it would have allowed them to cover up the tracks for what happened if the video guy did not leak the video. They would have been able to cover it up, protect Draymond, and he would have been allowed to get away with it like he's probably gotten away in the past. You got to think about it. This might not be the first time Draymond has done something like this. Like I said, I've heard alleged rumors where he's done bad things in the past on the same level or even worse than this, but they were able to cover it up because there was no video or evidence and they were able to keep it behind closed doors. So that should show you what a rotten organization they are. They're just straight up rotten. And I'm glad the video got leaked. They deserve to have this embarrassing moment. I don't think the Warriors intentionally leaked this video like some conspiracy theorists are saying. I definitely don't because it puts them in an uncomfortable situation with Jordan Poole, who is supposed to be their future investment, a key piece to their team in the future. If we're being honest, he's a very valuable player. One thing I'm going to mention about Draymond Green is that I have a term for him in the sense that he's what I call a charismatic bully. He has a lot of charisma, which allows him to get away with his bullying. He knows how to butter up people, how to just floor them in a way, kind of like make them feel good about themselves and get away with bullying at the same time. He knows how to play that game. He's very good at it. He's the type of guy that could slap you upside the head and then put his arms around you and just huck yuck with you and just be the best of friends and joke with you and say, hey, I didn't mean it. I was just playing, man. That's what he does. Like I remember many years ago in the playoffs, this was 2016 with Steven Adams, when he kicked Steven Adams in the nuts. This man kicked Steven Adams in the nuts more than once. I think it might have been after game 3 or 4 in OKC where they were speculating if he was going to get suspended. And then they showed Draymond Green outside the locker room immediately approach Steven Adams and put his hand around him and then just shake his hand saying, hey, are we good? Are we good? That was basically him trying to cover his tracks to not get suspended, to pretend he was cool with Steven Adams. Steven Adams was a dumbass and he took the bait and shook his hand when he should have just straight up said, like, hey, man, I see what you're trying to do. Don't come up to me. I don't want to talk to you. Just leave me alone. That's what he should have done. But Steven Adams is an idiot. And it showed me back then what Steven Adams is not really, quote unquote, tough like people make him out to be. He got pawned in that situation. But Draymond's very good at manipulating people. He bullied Durant even before Durant joined the Warriors when he told them we don't need you and blah, blah, blah. And Durant still came to him. He's a master at that. So I can definitely see how a lot of these media people can be manipulated by this guy. And a lot of people are just dumb. They don't see through his actions. But that's one thing I tell people all the time is that in life, you're going to meet people who are very charismatic. They can talk a good game, but their actions will always tell you the truth about who they are. And that's what you need to follow. And Draymond's actions consistently show he's a rotten human being. He's just a rotten piece of shit. And this leads me to ask the final question is, where does Jordan Poole go from here? What does he do? And I'm going to be on record and say I don't like Jordan Poole either. I think he's your typical young, arrogant Joe that thinks he's God's gift to basketball. He's very arrogant. I'll say this, but at the same time, he didn't deserve to get punched by Draymond Green the way he did. But he must make a decision now on his future with his team. It's a very uncomfortable situation. It's a tough situation. if I was in this situation, I definitely would retaliate against Draymond Green. Just I don't know, as if you're a real man, how you can live that down without wanting to strike him back. And even after that, just how can you coexist with this guy? I would hate playing with him. I would straight up tell the Warriors, like, hey, I don't want to play with this man. I don't want to deal with him. You can either get rid of me or you can trade him. Make up your decision. And if they and I would tell him straight up, if you match me next year and he's still on the team, I'm just gonna continue to fight with this dude because I don't want to deal with this crap. Just like I just that's how I would be. You have to also imagine in Jordan Poole's situation how embarrassing this is. His whole entire family knows now about this. They're going to see that video. There's no way he can just say it's not a big deal to any of his family members, his parents, his siblings, his cousins, his uncles. They're all going to remind him about it. Like, hey, man, this man knocked the shit out of you. Why are you cool with this guy? Why are you playing with this guy? Like, are you his bitch? They're actually going to ask him that question. They probably having those conversations with him right now. It's a very embarrassing situation. This is why I don't think this can really be fixed now because of that video. If it's ever going to be fixed, sure, could they win a championship this year? It's definitely possible. Plenty of guys have won championships with teammates that they despise and hated. We've seen this happen before, for sure. But do I think it can work long term? No, I don't think this relationship can work long term. I don't think it's possible. So it's a tough situation for him to be in, but if I was him, I would straight up tell ownership I don't want to play with Draymond. I would make it clear from the get-go, like, hey, I'm definitely not going to be down with playing with him beyond this year, but if you can get rid of him this year, you need to get rid of him this year. But if you ever think about matching me, if you even dare to match me, I'm definitely gonna start shit with this guy every day until you get rid of him. So you got to make a decision. That's what I would do personally if I was him. I would definitely would strike Draymond back for sure. And then after that, I would tell Draymond, like, I don't want to be your friend. We're just colleagues. We're not buddies at all. Just remember it. Don't get into my personal space. Don't talk shit to me. And we're just gonna work. We're just gonna be professionals about this. That's how I would handle it from there. So that's how I look at this situation. That's all I have to say. Let me know your thoughts, and that's about it.